Hello, I'm Brett Knowles from PM Squared Consulting. This is a quick overview of the OKR work we have been doing with Borland Groover. This overview is going to just quickly share with you some of the ideas that they discovered during this journey. Here's the issue. The issue is that if you survey the average organization, only about 14% of your employees actually understand what your strategy is. That's interesting because the opposite side of that equation is that means about 86% don't understand what their strategy is. And obviously, if they don't understand your strategy, they're not going to be working towards fulfilling that. If we look at that number in a bit more detail, 87% don't feel engaged in their jobs. And there's a relationship. If we don't understand our purpose and what we're trying to achieve, it's hard to feel like we're actually helping the health of patients. Another interesting number that we discovered is 57% of employees are not satisfied with how their organization manages their own performance and the organization's performance. And so this is a bad diagnosis because strategies fail not because they're not brilliant, they fail because of these mechanisms. And OKRs are a way to deal with that. So the concept of OKRs is this. In your organization, you have some long-term mission and vision, and we break that down to some strategic goals, stuff we're going to do this year. That gets broken down to objectives, stuff we're going to do this quarter, and eventually down to tactics and tasks. So that mission and vision might break down into 5 to 7 strategic goals, and each of those we need to break down to what should we be doing each quarter, and then obviously from there, what are the specific key results that would tell us if we're actually achieving those objectives. And there are specific activities below that that the organization needs to do. There's typically a timeline here. So, that mission vision is going to be describing that view for 5 to 10 years. Those goals are this year and, what we need to do over, say, the next 5 years. The quarterly objectives are obviously breaking that annual goal down to what are we doing this quarter, and then these activities are weekly, daily sort of activities. So this objective breakdown allows us to get to our focus for OKRs, which are these quarterly objectives and results. And the focus towards this quarterly is largely based on the increased pace that business now operates at. If you wait a year before you update your objectives, you're going to be out of date. By looking at them quarterly, the organization becomes more agile and adaptive as your pricing model changes, as customers change, as hospitals change their policies. You need to change your strategy in reaction to those. And of course, if you can change your strategy faster than the competition, then you gain market share. So let's talk about what we did at Borland Groover. We basically took them through 5 steps, which took about 5 days. In the first day, we got together with the executive team and we drew what we call a strategy map. The strategy map outlines the organization's strategic objectives, their cause and effect relationship, and ultimately what their weighting is, what their priority is. So you can see, for example, here that their goal internally is to provide excellent services, and they feel that there's 3 things they need to do to achieve that. Lead in healthcare innovation, build relationships with docs and hospitals, and understand the market needs. And if we do those 3 things, we'll deliver excellent services. So the team converted their existing strategy into this strategy map. We then established what those top level key results were, again at the corporate level. Then on day 2, we brought in a separate team. Think of this as a performance team. They're direct reports. And what we did is we began to do what we call an ontology. We list the strategic objectives from day 1 down the left side, their core processes across the top, and we score the impact of each process on achieving those objectives. So from 1 to 5, the higher the impact, the darker the square. So we multiply impact by weighting to determine how many strategy points are at play. And everywhere there's a black cell, that becomes a critical performance node in the organization. If you're not doing those black cells correctly, you're going to have operational difficulties. So as we begin developing our objectives and key results, we're going to focus on those black areas. Once we get those done, we'll go to the dark gray, and once we get those done, the light gray. So this allows us to make sure that we're cascading the strategy accurately from the top of the house down to the departmental level. This has other benefits. Obviously, wherever there's a black cell, you probably want to staff it with your best staff. And we can begin understanding even horizontally, if we're going to create a team to, in this case, deliver a superior quality service, we better have someone in that team from client and office operations. We better have someone from ancillary operations, someone from HR, and someone from clinical quality. So this ontology becomes an organizing function for the organization, as well as doing objectives and key results. So what the team then did is we did what we call an objective breakdown. We take that overall corporate objective and break it down to the sub-objectives that they need to do, and then with each of those sub-objectives, the sub-objectives. Now, you can go as far as you want, but at Borland Groover, we decided that anything that required less than 4,000 hours a quarter was below the level of an objective. So sooner or later, you have to draw a line on where it's below the radar. In their case, it was 4,000 hours. For any other organization, it could be a different number based on just order of effort or magnitude. So we then allowed the teams to get together and work on what we call overlaps and underlaps. So basically show and tell. Each department shows their objective breakdown and either asks for help, I need help from HR, I need help from IT to do this, or the departments offer help. So if I was in the audience, I might go, hey, I'm from IT, I can help you get that objective accomplished. So in this way, we begin to make sure that we have a simplified view of OKRs and understand how the team works cross-functionally to achieve them. So once we've got that agreement, we then use the ontology to develop what are the specific key results for each chunk of the organization. This allows us to begin making sure that the departmental objectives add up to the overall department goals and that cross-functional alignment. So what is an OKR? Probably a good time to break into that. Basically, it's a framing of what the objectives of the organization are. So in this case, I might have something like reduce appointment to imaging time, wait time. And so one of the key results might be they have a centralized scheduling system, but maybe it's got a limited capacity. So in Q1, we're going to try to be able to process 250 patients a week through central scheduling. In Q2, we're going to double that number, 500 a week. In Q3, 750, and then finally 800 at the end. So what we've done is we've taken this objective, reduce appointment to imaging time, and we've identified an overall key result. But to make that happen, we need help from some other departments. So for example, maybe we've got extra capacity in one clinic and not another, so we're going to set up a shuttle so we can shuttle patients from one clinic to another. And I'm not saying Borland Groover did this, I'm just saying there's an example of what could be done. So perhaps they've got capacity for shuffling 50 patients a week in Q1, they're going to double that by Q2 and get to 250 a week by Q4. So that's a different department that's going to help with this capacity issue. A third might be maybe there's a gap between once we have an appointment and when we actually get the image done. And we're going to try to decrease that. In Q1, it's going to be 4 weeks down to 3, 2, and eventually a week and a half. So the idea is these OKRs allow us to take a look at an overall strategic objective and break it down to what we need to do each quarter and what each department can do to contribute. So we have that by the end of day 3, which means in day 4 we can begin building that data into a cloud-based OKR tool. So in this case, I used a tool called 7 Geese, and you can see now the CEO has an overall dashboard of how we're performing, shows us how we're performing and the progress we're making. We can also take a look at the same data as like a drill down. So overall, their objective is to provide good health. If we take a look at that, it breaks into a number of objectives like increase revenue, increase access. If I look at increased access, I can drill that down to what we're talking about in this example, wait times, and I can drill that down to, for example, clinic, and then within clinic down to doc. So what we've been able to do is take this corporate level strategy and eventually break it down to what teams and individuals do. So part of the concept of Borland Groover is maybe we move this towards even having a scorecard by doc. Think of them as a franchise, like a Starbucks franchise. Each doc has a little franchise. We can give them a scorecard, but that doc scorecard and allows them to sort of compete with each other, aggregates up to what we need within the overall organization. So we've taken those objectives and given that level of detail. Then the final step is to turn it on. So by Friday, we're agreeing on how we're going to be using this tool to manage the business. What do those weekly, monthly meetings look like? How are we going to update the objectives quarterly? And how do we simplify that annual refresh and planning process? So that's the overall journey that Borland Groover's on. And it's just all about executing strategy, helping employees become more engaged, helping the organization become more productive. The interesting conversation that we had was one of the opportunities or threats in this market is private equity. And private equity are interested in your clinics to try to leverage your inefficiencies by clustering you together with other clinics to get some economies of scale. So what they're really trying to do is build a more efficient model. And our argument here is if you do this objectives and key results like Borland Groover's done, you already get the efficiencies that the PE people are offering. In fact, more importantly, you don't need them anymore because you've already created those efficiencies for yourself. What that allows you to do is to grow organically. And in this business, that's the only logical way to grow. You have to select docs which fit into your culture and mindset and appreciate the benefits that your clinic offers them. And that loyalty goes beyond what a PE firm can offer through just efficiencies. If you've offered those efficiencies through better operations, they're going to be attracted to your clinic. So the benefits you're going to begin to see are things like your leadership team and everyone else gets a better disciplined thinking. They're able to communicate strategy more accurately to people, which helps build engagement. And it begins moving you towards a better measurement culture so that people can focus their efforts on the things that count and therefore moves towards employee engagement. So hopefully that was an interesting overview. We'd love to talk to you more about this conversation and how we can help your clinic move forward. Thanks for your time.